stole their harmonica. On something called Meet the Press, Reverend Jesse Jackson said this about America on the passing of Nelson Mandela.
Even today, while we won the apartheid battle against skin apartheid, the surface level, and political right to vote, the apartheid remains. The apartheid gaps in poverty and health care and education, we're in the middle of the end of the apartheid struggle even now. It's just changed phases.
Laughing. Didn't see that coming. A leftist using apartheid to describe present-day America. Now, in case you noticed, I'm not an older black South African. But if I were, I'd be a little peeved. It's kind of like when an animal rights wacko uses the word Holocaust to describe chicken farming in front of an old Jew. The sufferings do not compare. But as attention-getting stunts go, comparing one monumental hardship with your cause always works. And we know how much the Reverend hates attention. But as for the actual division that exists in America, part of it is his fault. He's aligned himself with leftist ideas that have done little to raise the boats of his brethren, while marginalizing others who do not embrace such assumptions. Jackson once again shows that it's time for a new batch of leaders, ones who are unafraid to reject the government bloat that's dragged so many blacks and whites down. I refer to black conservatives and libertarians, the Mia Loves, the Ben Carsons, the Alan Wests. They exist, but you only really hear about them when they're mocked by liberals, both black and white. I use the word apartheid regarding treatment of such leaders, but I'm not that dumb. So, Bob, you are good friends with Jesse Jackson, I imagine. You hung out with him. I remember seeing you with him once. Was he wrong to use the phrase apartheid?
Well, I probably in the context he did, but this is where I agree with him. In this city, let's just take this city. Poor blacks and browns, Hispanics are living up in the ghetto. Their schools are the worst, and white people live down here and have good schools. The healthcare up there is the worst. Down here, it's pretty good. I mean, the fact of the matter is we are separated by poor and wealthy in this city, now, and a matter of fact, across the country. So I think that I wouldn't use the word apartheid, but I certainly would say that we are segregated that way.
But the taxes are the highest in New York City, so what's the government doing with that money to help them? Nothing, really, except maybe create some affordable housing. But
and also, how does that square with the argument that you've made about intergenerational urban poverty being the result of policies over the decades? When a Republican comes forward with an idea like John Boehner is a champion of school choice, that is one thing that could help break the logjam of the problem of schools. If parents were able to make choices, and it goes nowhere. The earned income tax credit would help people that single moms that are trying to help their kids. There's also the idea of the private sector, the private accounts for Social Security would have actually helped African Americans more than anyone. But Republicans, anytime they raise their hand with an idea, they get smacked and called a racist.
Yeah, the earned income tax credit is still there, though, right?
It is, but you could modify it and improve it upon it so that single moms would have more money in their pocket to make decisions based on their own needs for their kids.
Yes.
Ready for me?
Yeah. Yes, KG.
All right. So here's the deal. He's really just doing his whole cause a disservice because he knows what he's talking about. I mean, he's really making a very poor argument because when you look at the reality, when you open a history book, you actually see that it's the Democratic Party that has done a disservice to a whole generation of African Americans and others who suffer in poverty in poor communities, because creating this whole entitlement and dependency nation is getting everyone nowhere, and it's certainly not helping these families, and that's what should be addressed. That's what really should be given a hard look, instead of just throwing out apartheid and reckless terms like that and saying that it's, comparing it to the United States today.
Let's keep in mind, he did not accuse Republicans of this. I mean, the Democrats, as I've said many times, are as complicit in this as the Republicans are by ignoring it. But the Democrats are complicit in it, and I've said it again, we had a welfare state we shouldn't have had. Now, having said that, that doesn't change the fact that there are separations here between poor and wealthy in this city specifically.
Apartheid?
I would they live apart from, and they don't go to 21.
Right. So it's more a function of the economy than it is a forced policy from the government. There aren't militia in the street saying blacks have to go here and whites have to go here.
No,
right?
Of course not. No.
Okay, so the Reverend, as a great of a guy and friend of yours that he is doing nothing to help racism in America. He's doing more to foment or to create a wider racial divide in America by saying ridiculous comments like that. America is making massive strides against racism. Do you not agree? We have a black president. We have leaders leaders of all major industries who are black. We have leaders in sports who are black. We have black conservatives. We have black. The racial divide is coming together, but it's people like the Reverend and Al Sharpton and some of the others who make a living, who profit off of a wider racial divide, who have an interest, a financial interest in the racism staying like this rather than doing this. So they make idiotic comments like that. And I apologize. He may be a friend of yours and friend of other people around here. I don't care. I think it was wrong-headed for him to do something like that.
I think it's not unusual for Jesse. His has been this way for a long time, and
doesn't make it right.
But he has
it does not make it right. I'm not suggesting that. I said right at the front end is the wrong word to use.
The strange thing is that Reverend Jackson actually shuts down conversation rather than encouraging it, because if you are a Mia Love, thank God she has courage, right? Mm-hmm. But if you raise your head up out from the ground and say, I've got an idea, you know, if being smacked around is something that people will shrink back from, and they don't want to argue, so they stick in their own little area and they don't want to reach across. But there are actually good policy ideas from both sides that if there was allowed to be a decent conversation without calling somebody a racist or suggesting apartheid, which was a government policy, with deplorable government policy, not what we have going on in America.
Well, let me just submit one thing here. Rand Paul's suggestion about Detroit has not received an attack from the left. Certainly, I think it's a good idea to go in and at least have that dialogue, and hopefully it works. His idea, they'll adopt some of it, and it will work. So I think that there's such desperation in some of these communities that they're willing to try new things. This may be the time.
I have one just quick fact. Also, he says that these voter ID laws serve to disenfranchise voters. It's actually incorrect. Sure. No, it's incorrect. When you look at the facts, every state where voter ID has been implemented, you have seen an increase in minority voting. Equip yourself with the facts. Don't bring the cause back.
Well, I'd argue that about South Texas. But
hey, that rhymed.
It was pretty good. All right.
Like Tiny D.
Ahead.